am so happy with how this looks for the Rangers. We have a pitcher, Jack Leiter, and he is a dude.
Athletic enough to get to any ball. And while I do think his hitting is worse than Derek Jeter, it's not that far off.
So he reached double digits. The big question has been answered.
It just leaves it to where I don't believe that the Canadians had a shot.
The steal of the draft is Will Taylor to the Texas Rangers in the 19th round after he signs with them.
We'll see what happens during his career. It's important to keep his Scotty around, Chris Middleton. It's important to keep his Dennis Rodman, which I believe is like Drew Holiday, another important defender, a guy who's a team builder. And maybe that's PJ Tucker. I don't know who's the Dennis Rodman of the team.
I really don't like the Clippers just kind of sending it in when they're like, good job, Manfred. You won't get many of those for the rest of the year.
And you can quote this on me. There is no way the Orioles or Red Sox make the playoffs this season. There's no way. There's no way.
You're not mentioning 2006. You can mention the other people. Not 2006. You already took your math shot.
Well, it's also like you think, oh, just because I bought the best soap doesn't mean your room's going to be clean. Just because you bought the best vacuum doesn't mean the floor is going to be not dirty.
And then you have the Diamondbacks. And then Giants, I have them above the Rockies because I don't have any idea what the Rockies are doing.
Sam Bennett's someone I really expected to be a better player.
There will be a Rodgers playing for Green Bay, even though he may not be the quarterback. But it's still unknown there. Austin is giving me the dead stare, so I guess don't mention Aaron Rodgers to him right now.
Yeah, so we can compare a rookie QB to a toddler.
Corey Perry will give some veteran presence to the Canadians and to just help give some insights on what he did last year.
I agree 100%, and the reason why I agree is because this is a terrible trade for the long term.
What would you have said if I bet you $100 at the end of the round robin and start of the playoffs that the Stars would be in the Stanley Cup playoffs or Stanley Cup finals?
Hi, this is Kelly Forbes with the Dallas Stars, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NHL Opinions of the Week for September 26th. Preseason has started, Austin, and we are about a week and a half from October 12th when regular season starts, and I am pretty sure one of the games is the Kraken versus the Golden Knights, or the Kraken and Golden Knights playing on those nights, but against other teams.
It's really going to be an interesting start of the season. The Kraken have very, very high expectations that are really put on place by some of the players they got, but mostly because of Vegas's successes after they started out. So many people see them as a dark horse candidate for not only the playoffs, but for the Cup. Because, again, Vegas made it there in their first year, and they've been trying to make it back ever since. There's always something special with expansion teams in every sport. They always have that chip on their shoulder. Hey, our team didn't want us back. Let's prove them wrong and stuff like that. But I'm definitely excited. I think the Kraken will be good.
You have also said, and I agree with you, the Kraken have the best goalie tandem. So that we've seen how goalies the past two seasons have helped their teams win the Stanley Cup or get to the Stanley Cup, and then the other team has another great goalie in Vasilevsky who has helped them. So those are two things to keep an eye on, which can make them a dark horse for Stanley Cup. Speaking of predictions, we will be coming out with a season predictions video, but that is not today. Today we are doing a preview, so we will be going in alphabetical order. Now let's start with the Anaheim Ducks. I'll go first. I think they perform to their expectations because I don't really think they're high expectations. What do you think, Austin?
Yeah, I think they match. Really, what we're going to be saying here is that we think they're overperform their expectations, underperform, or match, equal, whatever you want to say. I think they'll equal match one of those things that means that they do the same as what they're expected to do. I'm really excited to see how Travis Zegras, James Drysdale, all these young players perform. I'm also excited to see John Gibson. He's a great goaltender, and even though he had a little bit of an off season, I expect him to bounce back in a big way. But this team we don't really expect them to make the playoffs, and I really don't think they do.
Yeah, now we go to the Arizona Coyotes. Arizona has acquired a lot of picks, so um, they're kind of in that rebuilding phase, getting all the picks they can to get all the players they can. So I think they match their expectations. I really don't see them um, overperforming, and I don't. Maybe they can underperform, but not really. Um, so I think they match them. Arizona. I'm not confusing Arizona with Ottawa, right? Arizona has all the picks, or does Ottawa have all the picks?
Arizona,
Okay.
you're right. Arizona is the one who traded away their stars like Oliver Ekman Larson, Connor Garland, and who they trade to.
I thought Larson went to the Canadians, right?
I don't think that's his name. I have terrible memory.
Are you thinking of the center?
Yeah,
Who's?
I don't think it was Larson.
Let me look it up.
You could be right. I don't know. My brain stopped working there for a second. But yeah, I also I agree with you. I think that I actually am going to go with they exceed expectations. Many teams expect many people expect them to be absolutely terrible, and I don't really think they're going to be that bad. Um, they're obviously not going to be great, but they're going to be a big veteran group of guys who understand their role, and they're going to be trying hard. They're another group of outcasts. Many people traded them away from their team because they didn't believe that they were a fit for the future. So I'm excited to see how they perform.
They traded Christian Vorak to the Canadians,
Dvorak, that's his name. Yep, that's the
so
one.
that's what you were thinking of. Now we go to the Boston Bruins. I would say probably the expectations make the playoffs um, and go deep into the playoffs. So I think they match that. I don't think they overperform that. I also don't think they underperform. I see that they make. I definitely believe they will make the playoffs and they can go deep. But I don't know if, and by deep, I think semi conference finals, not conference finals. I don't think they make it there. So that's why I don't say they overperform. Do you disagree?
No, I think that they could make the conference finals, and I think that is my prediction that they do. But this is a team that's made it out of the first round their last 4 years, so I don't think it's much. I don't know if that's overperforming. I would say if I had them making the cup, which I don't, obviously, I've already made it very obvious. I think the Lightning will make it back to the cup and three-peat. But I think Boston, if I had to make it the cup, would be overperforming. But they're right there. I think they still make the conference championship uh, and then lose. But well, I mean, we'll see. They have they have another veteran core. Brad Marchand looks to continue to perform at his peak. Hopefully, Pasternak comes back fully healthy. I'm excited to see this goalie tandem, Swayman and Olmark. So yeah, I think they match expectations, but maybe a little bit higher than yours.
Yeah, they also have Taylor Hall, who's traded from the Buffalo Sabres. So let's talk about the Buffalo Sabres. Their expectations are not high, but I think they underperform just because it seems like a very bad time to be a Sabres fan. Why can't I think of the guy
Jack
that just
Eichel.
had surgery? What'd you
Jack
say?
Eichel.
Yeah, Jack Eichel. That's what I'm thinking of. And they're trying to trade him, but he wants that. He just had surgery, so it's a very difficult situation right now. Um, what are your thoughts on the Sabres?
Yeah. I'm gonna say they match expectations because I don't think they have any. So I don't think it's possible to, unless you literally lose every game. I say that they match expectations just because everybody expects them to get the first pick again or at least be in contention for it. And they don't really have much to play for besides that. Obviously, they still should grow some of their young players, but a lot of the guys they have there, like Craig Anderson, maybe on his last stride as a 39 or 40-year-old goaltender who obviously played in the playoffs last year for Washington. But yeah, they have a lot of older guys and some younger guys that just need to prove themselves. So I think they'll be the worst team in the league, but again, I feel like that's what everybody else expects.
if we're gonna do an NFL comp, I'm gonna comp them to the Jaguars.
I can't because the Jaguars have a head coach that shouldn't be in the NFL. But I believe the Sabres have a head coach that deserves at least a chance in the NHL. So I would have the Jaguars even below them. I would comp them with the Jets. I think the Buffalo Sabres are the Jets. They lose, they're bad. They have a lot of players that still need to grow, and their star player was traded. I'm going to say star player now for Sam Darnold. Obviously, he didn't look as good with the Jets as, but assuming what happened with Jack Eichel. Jack Eichel last year looked terrible compared to his first couple seasons, and now we're seeing. And when he gets traded, I'm assuming it's going to be a Sam Darnold type of effect where they're like, oh, yeah, that guy was good. I remember now. But I can't. I feel like it's a disgrace to even mention them in the same name as the Jaguars. Jaguars obviously last night. No, this isn't a football episode. We're up 14-0 and then blew a second half lead and lost because they're bad. So, uh, yeah, I think the Sabres are the Jets of the NHL, and nobody is the Jaguars of the NHL.
Okay. Now we go to the Calgary Flames. They signed Blake Coleman, who was part of the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think their expectations probably just missing playoffs, so I'm going to say they overperform. What are your thoughts?
It's really close because if you say their expectations are missing the playoffs, I'm gonna say they meet and barely miss. The loss of Mark Giordano, I really think, is the difference between them making and missing. He's not only the captain of their team or was, but he also was a defensive anchor with some offensive upside. So losing him, I really think hurts, and I think they'll get close to making a playoff spot. But if they had Giordano, I definitely would have them making it. But now that they don't, I think they miss, even with the addition of Blake Coleman, which I really like.
Now we go to the Carolina Hurricanes. They were the number one seed last year in the, oh my gosh, what was the division's name? Central Division.
Yeah, yeah, they were in the same division as the Stars, Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though it's not Central, Carolina's like
Yeah, I know.
not even close to Central,
Yeah, and you have Tampa.
and Florida,
That's weird.
and Florida's in Miami, so Miami's definitely not Central.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I think they underperform, because they've lost both their goalies. They traded Nedeljkovic and Anderson, right or no?
Anderson's now their goaltender. Reimer went to Reimer went to. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. I know Mrazek went to the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know that to be a fact. Peter Mrazek went to Maple Leafs. Nedeljkovic went to Detroit. Reimer went. Did Reimer go to San Jose? Don't answer that. Don't answer that. Let
No,
me think.
I'm looking to find it right now.
Just look up James Reimer.
Yeah, I found him. Okay.
Okay. Do you know what team he's on? Because
Yes, I do. I do know what team.
Okay. Who are the goaltenders in San Jose? Aiden Hill. Is it Reimer? No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. Come on. Come on. I can get this. I want to say San Jose, but I don't think it's San Jose. I'll go with San Jose.
You're right.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
about San Jose.
Oh
I
my
was gonna
god.
laugh. You're like, no, I'm not going with San Jose. I'm like, well, you're gonna not like this answer. It's San Jose. So yeah, they've lost. So the goalie tandem, the entirely new goalies, I think is gonna have them underperform because I think
It's Anderson or Antti Ranta.
yeah. So I think an expectation is them making the playoffs and doing high in their division, but I think they underperform on that. What do you
Do you think they missed the playoffs?
No, I think they make the playoffs, but they're a lower seed because they were like the number one last year, and I don't think they'll be the number one. They'll probably be the lower one, close to the very bottom of the making the playoffs.
Interesting. So I'm gonna have them meeting. I think their expectations to make it to the second round. I think they finally do. They haven't made it back to the second round since obviously they went to the conference finals against the Bruins and got swept in 2019. But I think they make a resurgence. They haven't made it out of the first round the past 2 years, like I just mentioned. I think they will make it to the second round and then lose to either Boston or Tampa, whoever plays them. So, yeah, I think they meet expectations. I really like the addition of Jesper Kotkaniemi. They also have more Finnish players on that team, which I think really helps. Antti Ranta is a Finnish player who plays in net. Sebastian Aho, Finnish. So they have a lot of guys up there that are young Finnish players, and I think it does help when you play with those teams on a national league level or with your nation, and also on the ice with your professional team. I do think that really adds to the chemistry because you have a similar upbringing. I think it really helps with like when you have two players who went to the same college, played college ball together. I think that really helps for any team. I mean, we saw Joe Burrow throw a lot of passes to Jamar Chase. Obviously, they were at the same college, and we've seen that happen many times so far. And yeah, I really expect this team to meet expectations, and that'll allow for them to hopefully be on the right track. Obviously, we saw Jordan Stahl have a resurgent year, and I believe if he continues to perform as good as that, they'll be pretty good. Um, and they have a pretty good defensive pairing, even though they lost Dougie Hamilton. I still like Slavin. I still like Nachas. So yeah, they definitely should be a force in a conference that's going to be pretty hard. Like I said, Boston I expect to be pretty good. Tampa I expect to be pretty good. Toronto should make a move, and we'll get to them sooner or later. Um, Obviously, the Canadians made it to the finals last year. They also have some teams with a lot of experience in that conference. Uh, Not only Pittsburgh and their tandem obviously made it to three Stanley Cups, or won three Stanley Cups. They made it to four. They also have Philadelphia, who was a one seed just 2 years ago, not last year, but the year before that. Technically, that was only a year ago, so you can count that however you may. But yeah, Carolina, I think they meet expectations, uh, and that'll set them up for a great year. I really like how their team is looking. But we can move on to the next team, and the next team after Carolina is the Chicago Blackhawks. So Chicago, that's a team that obviously uh, made it to the playoffs back in 2019 after they beat no, not 2019, 2020 after they beat the Oilers in the play-in round and then won a game against Vegas. And they honestly probably could have won two of those games, but now uh, they rebuild and rebuild really fast. They obviously pick up and trade for Fleury. They traded for Seth Jones. Um, and yeah, they're making moves. Hopefully, Taze comes back healthy, Dot comes back healthy, and I really like the pairing of Kane and DeBrincat. Kubalik's been really good for them as of late as a scoring player, and Lankinen or Subban, whoever does get the backup role, I assume it should be Lankinen, is a fine backup. I would assume that the lion's share of starts, majority, at least 75% of them go to Fleury, while the rest go to either Lincoln and Subban or an array of goaltenders who play beneath them. But when the playoffs come around, it's going to be Fleury. And so I have them exceeding the expectations. I feel like some people feel like Chicago may not make the playoffs. Some people think they'll be first round. I think they may at least make it to the second round, especially with this maybe being Fleury's last season. He has something to prove. He wants to win another cup. Obviously, he's been there in three of them. Even though he wasn't a primary starter back in 2017 when they won against the Predators, he was in 2009 when they won, and partially in 2016 when he shared the lion's share of starts with Matt Murray. Uh, but yeah, I think Fleury will be reinvigorated. This may be Taze's last season. We saw him almost retire last year after whatever injury or ailment or whatever he was dealing with personally, taking him out for the rest of the season. Kane still very good. So yeah, I think this team, when it comes to playoff time, will be very, very, very good. And especially as we saw in 2019, they're not a team to take lightly, even if players go down with injury. Taze and Kane are very hard to take out of a playoff series, no matter who they are paired with and who the other team has defensively. We've seen them tear up other teams, and that really has impacted their ability to put fear into the teams they play against. Again, they beat the Oilers 3-1 when the Oilers were supposed to be the top seed in the playoffs that round. But yeah, I really expect the Chicago Blackhawks to exceed expectations, make it to the second round at least, and maybe vie for a championship. I know many people don't necessarily expect that, but I think they do have a chance, especially with their championship caliber core. Obviously, Kane is 1-3, Tays is 1-3. I know they traded away Duncan Keith, but the defense with Seth Jones should still be elite. And we'll find out how everything works out when the season comes around. But yeah, I think Chicago will exceed expectations and at least make it to the second round or more. Uh, but yeah, what do you think about Chicago?
I think Chicago matches, maybe outperforms, because I think their expectations are make the playoffs and make a possible um, deep push. But I think they match them. I wouldn't say overperform. I think they match those expectations. So now we can move on to Colorado. I think they match their expectations. Actually, I think they underperform. Because I think probably the expectations are make the Stanley Cup final. Do you agree with that, Austin? Or
After not making it to the Western Conference final, even though they're the final, yeah, I would say the expectation is to make it to the Stanley Cup final. That really is what it is.
so that's why I say underperform because I don't think they make the Stanley Cup final.
I'll have to agree with you then. I really don't think they do. Um, I yeah, I honestly think that they've lost Grubauer, and I really think that was the key to their success. And his loss, I think, will even hurt more because Kemper doesn't really have that much playoff experience. I know he did play well against Colorado back in 2020, but it all changes when things come to light.
Yeah. Now we move on to the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is a team that I think overperforms. Um, because I think expectations are they'll do well but not make the playoffs. But I think they overperform and make the playoffs. What do you think, Austin?
Yeah, so this is another team that I won't be surprised if they outperform. Columbus is a team with Line. They have I like Elvis Merzlikins. I think they're another team like Arizona that I don't think makes a playoff, but I do think makes a push to where they are seen in a better light at the end of the season than they were at the beginning.
Yeah. Now we can move on to the Dallas Stars. I am going to say match their expectations. I think you make the playoffs, make it out of the first round. I think those are their expectations, so I think they match those expectations. Um, what do you think?
Yeah, I have to agree. I really do think they make it out of the first round, especially now that Sagan, Radulov, and Ben should be back to start the season, and that's really key. I like what Joe Pavelski's done. Hopefully that keeps up, and if he can stay as good as he was last year, they're honestly a Stanley Cup contender again, as long as their goaltending can get healthy. So we're gonna have to see, but I think they match expectations.
Yeah, they definitely. I definitely agree with you there on Pavelski, Radulov. You also have Robertson, and then Jamie Benn is moving to center, so that's we have a pretty strong depth of center with Hintz, Ben, Pavelski alternates, and then of course Sagan we have at center. So those are some really good centers. Um, so I'm excited to see how that happens. We also got Suter. We signed him after he was cut by the Wild. But let's move on to the Red Wings. I think they overperformed their expectations. I think their expectations are pretty low, but they did get some nice players like Nedeljkovic. Um, so I think they overperform, but they still miss the playoffs. But they do better than people expected. What do you think?
I honestly think this is a borderline playoff team. I wouldn't be surprised if they do make a push to get close, but I agree with you. I think they overperform because I feel like most people don't see them in as good as light as I do. I really like the additions of P.S. Suter, Nedeljkovic, and all the other guys they brought on. Um, I really won't be surprised if they make a push for the playoffs. I don't think they will make the playoffs, but I agree with you. I think they'll overperform.
Now we move on to the Edmonton Oilers. I think they match. They will make the playoffs, and I believe they will. They should make it out of the first round. So I think they match those expectations. What do you think?
I haven't done many underperforming, but I'm gonna do one here. I don't believe um that they do. Uh, I think that uh I think they make the playoffs and lose in the first round. and again are out before winning a round, just like Toronto.
Interesting pick. Now we move on to the Florida Panthers. I think their expectation is to make the playoffs. So I would say they match those expectations. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Florida matches, and I really think Florida are contenders this year. I think they make it to the second round along with Carolina, and they honestly could push out Boston or Tampa if they give them a hard series. Honestly depends on injuries. I like the addition of Joe Thornton, but I wouldn't be surprised if this team with Barkov, Huberdeau, and I really hope Bobrovsky makes it back as an important player. Obviously, he had to start some games, but last time they made the playoffs, but again, they didn't really he didn't really play all that well. So they're going to need him to play big, especially with Spencer Knight behind him. But yeah, I I think we can move on to the next team where we have the LA Kings. The Kings are a team that I think will overperform. I honestly think they can make the playoffs. Um, it, I don't think many people do, but I like Anze Kopitar. I like their young players. I think Jonathan Quick could have a comeback season, even though Patterson's supposed to be the starter. I feel like he has one more pushing him. Drew Doughty's still a great defender, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do this season.
Yeah, I think they overperform because I think they're still in the rebuilding phase, but I think they do better than people expect. So that's why I'm overperforming. Now we go to the Wild. I'm gonna say underperform because I think their expectations are to make the playoffs and get out of the first round. Um, but given how they had to get rid of Suter and then who's the other person they cut? I can't remember his name.
Oh, Zach Parise?
Yeah, Parisi and Suter to free up that money. I do think they make the playoffs, but I don't know if they make it out of the first round. So that's why I say underperform. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think they underperform. I think Minnesota's going to be really good. I really like Kaprizov. I really like so many players on this team. I already mentioned Jordan Greenway before the playoffs last year. Eriksson Ek. I really like the defense. Spurgeon's their new captain. Obviously, they still have Cam Talbot in that. I think they overperform and make it to the second round. We'll see.
Interesting. I know you did like the Wild last year, especially against Vegas, as that was kind of a big contributor for me in winning the Stanley Cup playoffs prediction. So now we go to the Canadians, not the Cardinals. The Canadians are, I think, overperform because I don't think they have really high expectations with Weber being out and Price possibly missing the start of the season. So I think they overperform those expectations. Maybe a fringe playoff team close to making the playoffs. What do you think?
Yeah. Um, I I think they meet expectations. I feel like most people expect them not to make the playoffs, and I don't either. I have them being really close, but with the losses that they do, especially if Carey Price starts on the IL or IR or whatever the NHL version of the injured list or injured reserve is. I know there's a long-term IR, the LTIR that Shea Weber's on, but without that leadership in the locker room, it could be very difficult to will wins together, especially in a very hard division.
Now we go to the Nashville Predators. I think they match their expectations. What about you?
Yeah, I think they do as well. I feel like most people don't expect him to make the playoffs, and I really don't think they do either. Saros is a great goaltender, but Roman Yossi's kind of fallen off, and I could see them making it, but I really don't. It's gonna be really close between some of those teams there in the West, but we'll have to see.
Now we go to the New Jersey Devils. I think they overperform. Like I don't think they make the playoffs, but I think they'll make some noise. Um, just better than what people would expect.
Yeah. Hmm. There's a lot of options here. The Devils could be really good or really bad. Dougie Hamilton is obviously a great signing, and if Subban comes back in full swing, I mean they could be really good. But without very deep defense, I do think they will struggle a little bit. Blackwood's obviously Mackenzie Blackwood's a great goaltender, and I like Jack Hughes in part of their offense. I do think Nico Hersher is a very underrated player, but again, this is a team I feel like is spontaneous. Sometimes they're really good, sometimes they're really bad. And they're going to need consistency to get in, but I think that they meet expectations and miss the playoffs.
Yeah. Now we can move on to the Islanders. I think their expectations are to make it to the conference finals, possibly make it out. I think they match those expectations. This is a team I'm really high on, but I think they have pretty high expectations, so I don't know how you can outperform those expectations.
Well, outperforming would be winning the cup, but I have them underperforming. I've already mentioned all the teams I have making it out of the second round in the West. I mean East. I have Boston and Tampa, and then I have Florida and Carolina. So there is no Islanders there. I think the Islanders just make the playoffs and fall out. I would love to see Zdeno try to win another Stanley Cup, so I'm rooting for the Islanders as much as somebody who isn't an Islanders fan could be. Obviously, I'd rather Boston win than Chara, but if it does turn out that Chara wins, I won't be all that mad about it, especially because he's one of my favorite players of all time. So I think they underperformed just because of the grueling nature of hockey. They've been playing a lot of hockey within the last year, made it 2 long playoff runs in the last year. Uh, I think that really could take a toll, and that's the reason why I have them out. Not because of talent, but just because of wear and tear.
That's a good reason. Now we go to the other New York team. We go to the New York Rangers. I think they match their expectations. Possibly make the playoffs, but they have a lot of young talent. So I just say match their expectations. What about you?
I agree. I think they make the playoffs as one of the lower seeds that does. I could see them losing in the first round, which I obviously do. Uh, but yeah, I think they do make the playoffs. Panarin's been a Jed. I think Kako and Lafreniere take their next step and force their way into the playoffs.
Now we go to the Ottawa Senators, the Ottawa rebuilding team. I think they match their expectations because they really aren't that high. So I just think they match. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think they match. They may overperform. I think they're gonna have a resurgent year, but they're definitely not gonna make the playoffs. The side is way too tough, in my opinion. The East is way too tough.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you there. Now we go to the Philadelphia Flyers. I would say match. Like I think they'll do well, um, but I don't think they make the playoffs. What do you think?
I'm gonna say underperform. And I don't really know. I think most people expect them to make a resurgent year because they normally do. Every other year they make the playoffs. I don't think they make the playoffs this year. We'll get to the team that's literally right after this. That I think takes their spot, but yeah, I don't think they do. So I feel like they miss out and
The,
underperform.
okay, the next team is the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins, I think they match. Um, the main thing is goalie situation. Their Charnik, how do I say his name? Or
Huh?
how do I say the goalies? I'm
Tristan
blanking on
Jari?
Jari. That's who it is.
You
I just
said a
mixed.
weird name that I
I
had
just
no idea
mixed
how it works.
Tristan and Jari into one word. Chari or
Yeah, I
Chari.
was wondering what you were trying to say.
Okay, so it's Tristan Jari. I can remember. So that's a big thing. So I think they match because, of course, you have Crosby. Um, so I think they match. What about you?
Yeah, I think they match, makes the playoffs, lose in the first round. They obviously will be a dark horse to make a long playoff push because they have all that talent, but we'll see what happens. I really like uh, the players on their team, but honestly, it's going to take a lot out of them. They've obviously made a lot of playoff runs in the past, and I've seen many times that a team has gone way too hurt. Obviously, Malkin's going to be out for a while to start the year. Crosby always had his yearly injury, and we don't know what else is going to happen. And goaltending was the issue last year. Obviously, they were the top of their division, so they still should be a team that makes the playoffs.
Now we go to the Seattle Kraken. I think their expectations are do well, maybe get close to making the playoffs. So I think they match them. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Sharks are going to match expectations, but I don't really think their expectations are all that high.
Kraken.
Oh,
The Sharks are next.
I'm looking at a list that's already. I'm looking at a list that doesn't have Seattle because, of course, this
Oh,
list doesn't have Seattle.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, Seattle, I think they do make the playoffs. I think they meet expectations and make the playoffs, but lose in the first round.
Now to the Sharks. Um, I think they match their expectations. I really don't think they're high. You match. I interrupted your reasoning, so here's your time.
Yeah. I think they match. They're not a really team that has a lot of upside, especially with the Evander Kane incident. So their goaltending's got better, but I don't know if that's enough to push them over the edge, even if they're in the bad division.
Now we go to the St. Louis Blues. You of course have the Tarasenko drama. I'm probably gonna say match. I think they'll be pretty good this year. Probably make the playoffs. So I just have them matching expectations.
Yeah. So I think they underperform. I think they miss the playoffs. Depending on what they get back from Tarasenko, that could change my opinion. But I really don't think Tarasenko is all that motivated to play well for a team that definitely is going to need all the players they can get.
Now we go to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Expectations. I don't really think you can put outperform because their expectations are probably make it back to the Stanley Cup final. So I think they match those expectations. Do you disagree on the expectation of them making it to the Stanley Cup final, or do you think it's winning the Stanley Cup final?
I would say expectations making it. I think the expected winner is Colorado. So I would say that they match it, and I honestly think they're going to exceed it. I already mentioned that I have them winning 3 straight, so that would obviously be the only way to exceed it. So yeah,
Yeah, I have them making it. I don't think they'll win it, but that's a conversation for another time. Now we go to the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think you have to make it. Their expectation is to make it out of the first round, and I don't know if they do. So I'm probably going to have them listed as underperforming. What do you think?
100% agree. I don't even have them making the playoffs. I have no spots left in the East, and I really think they underperform, and injuries may get to them.
Yeah, now we move on to the Vancouver Canucks. I think they max their expectation as they're in that rebuilding phase, so it's not really high expectations. They do have some nice players, but I just think they match their expectations. What do you think?
Yeah, I I don't know what Vancouver's expectations even are. They sucked last year, but the year before they almost made it to the Western Conference Finals. So I don't know what their expectations are. What do you think they are before I make?
The Canucks probably get some nice players playing well, but definitely not in contention for playoffs, but not like near at the bottom list. They're kind of like a mingling team in
Well,
the
I think
middle.
they overperform that. I don't think they make the playoffs, but I think they get close enough to the playoffs to where you think they're respectable.
Okay. Solid reasoning. Now we go to the Vegas Golden Knights. I think their expectations are probably make it to the conference finals. Um, so I think I'm gonna have them underperforming just because you don't have Marc Andre Fleury anymore, and now you have Robin Leonard. Leonard is a very capable goalie, but you just are missing the second part of that great tandem that the Vegas Knights broke up. So I have them underperforming because of that reason. What do you think?
I 100% agree. I think this is the year where everything hits the fan and people realize, oh, I don't know, Vegas will win a cup soon. I think they make it to the first round and lose. Maybe this year they lose to Minnesota, who I had them losing to last year, and it was that close, Game 7, that close.
You're very close, but Pacioretty came in to the rescue. Now we go to the Washington Capitals. Probably make playoffs, make it out of the first round. Maybe make it to the first round. I'm probably going to say match. Outperforming would be making it past the first round. I think they match those expectations. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think they make it to the first round for like the 1500 time and then lose in the first round for the 1500th time. And their other team's way too old. I don't really trust their goaltending too much, as we saw in the playoffs last year, even though it could make a bounce back. And they have a bright future in net, but besides that, they're just moving downhill every year since 2018 when they won the cup.
Now we go to the final teams as the Winnipeg Jets. I think they outperform their expectations. I think they do make it to the playoffs. Um, I think their expectations are getting close to the playoffs, so I have them exceeding that and making the playoffs. possibly win in the first round again. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think that they make the first round. I could see them making the second round. You know what? I'll say it. I think they overperform and make it to the second round. Maybe they beat the Oilers again. I don't know. But yeah, I think that they're growing as a team. I really think Hellebuck can steal a series from anybody, and I really think that'll happen this year.
Interesting. So, well, that concludes our season predictions preview. Be on the lookout in the near future, possibly next week, when we do our season predictions. And of course, we will be having points for that. So, thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.